Hi, it's John Taffer from Bar Rescue. Did you know the second building in America was a tavern? When I built my new restaurant franchise concept, Taffer's Tavern, I thought back to the roots of what makes a tavern, timeless character, all while delivering an unbelievably delicious food and beverage experience. That paired with my 40-plus years in the industry provides a clear roadmap to success. Do you have what it takes to be a Taffer's Tavern franchisee? If so, I'd love to hear from you. Visit franchise.tafferstavern.com.
Holidays are here, and so is fashionable fitness. Gift yourself a Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 3 5G, a phone that folds in half to literally stand on its own. Pair it with the Galaxy Watch 4 for ultimate wellness and wow factor. Check health stats, flex personal records. Over 90 activities can be tracked, like biking, swimming, golfing, and more. Invest in yourself with tech made to crush goals. Holidays open up with Galaxy. Shop it all at Samsung.com. 5G connection and availability may vary. Check with carrier. Products sold separately.
Hey everyone, this is the Almost World Podcast. Bringing to you mind-blowing interviews with guests from all over the world. So settle down, relax, and enjoy the show. Oh yeah, by the way, if you like the podcast, please support Almo's World Podcast on Patreon. Your support is what helps the podcast improve more and more. Welcome to Almo's World Podcast. This is awesome to talk to an unbelieving person from Pakistan, Bey Yaqeen Banda. Hey bro, can you introduce yourself?
Hey Elmo, how are you? I'm Bey Yaqeen Banda from Pakistan originally. I'm 45 right now. Live in New York, USA. I'm basically ex-Muslim for the past 4 years, and basically just came to your podcast and open to any questions that you have.
Well, right now I'm gonna say you're an apostate, brother. When you come back to a Muslim country, you're probably gonna die. I'm just kidding, but there's a huge truth in that, actually. Especially when it comes to very, very religious countries.
Yeah, some of the countries like Pakistan and Saudi Arabia and some of the Middle East and I think Indonesia and places like that, they have apostasy laws. So in those countries, yes, definitely leaving your religion, you could be sentenced to death. But in New York and USA, it's secular country, so it's not really that big of a deal over here.
Mm-hmm. But to you, why is it so important to be free from your former religion, And to be honest, you've lived in Pakistan for most of your life in your I guess in your young years, so it's your home. And to me, why would you risk not being able to come back to your home just so you can profess something like not believing in God?
I mean, that wasn't really the main thing. It's not something that you choose. The way I look at it is what you believe and what you don't believe is not really up to you. You don't choose to believe certain things. It's either you're convinced or you're not convinced based on the evidence provided. So, I mean, it wasn't like an easy thing, all of a sudden I just decided one day, it's been many, many years of looking into the, proofs for the religion and slowly learning more and more about Islam or more about other religions and all the different aspects that go into making a religion. Then you understand once you step away. See, the problem is most of the time you are inside the religion, so you can't see outside. You're inside your bubble. So inside your bubble, it's like an echo chamber. Everything makes sense. Whatever you say to other people, they repeat it back to you. You say your religion is the best. They say, yes, it is the best.
Well, I don't say, so I can say really that for all though, because a lot of people who are also inside these religions, these belief systems. A lot of them actually question their faiths as much as any skeptic would, but it ultimately leads them to believing their own faith. So, would you say that their skepticism is simply insufficient, and there are a lot of biases still intact for that, which leads them to still continue in their faith?
Well, I mean, you can look at the numbers. Basically, I mean, think about the amount of people that are in their religion. How many people actually leave the religion? That's very small percentage. And even some of the people who leave the religion become atheists for some reason. When they return, it is a miracle that they always return back to their own religion. You know, they all of a sudden find the truth, like, oh, I was misguided for a while, and they come back to the indoctrination that they had from childhood. And it's not the same for lots of religion, especially for Islam. The indoctrination from childhood is very intense. It's not, I would say maybe for Jewish religion, ultra-Orthodox Jews also have a lot of indoctrination from childhood, but Islam is one of those religions that it starts off right from like age 3 or 4, and it just builds up on top of you till till you're grown. So you really don't have any escape, you know.
But to me, though, it seems that we have to talk about what are the reasons why people leave their childhood religions. You know, for example, in your case, I would think that in terms of the information that you have received from being in America, you have more or less been enlightened to the problems of your faith that you were not aware of before. So it's probably more of a rationalistic the rationalistic reasons as to why you left Islam.
Yes, I mean, for me, I know different people leave their religion, especially Muslims, leave for many different reasons. Some are emotional, some are like, you know, they have been suppressed. Some of them are actually have a lot of violence happen to them, and they leave because of that. For me, none of that stuff happened. For me, it's more of rational thinking, like, you know, looking at what is available in the religion and how it's explained, and then looking at the outside sources, how all the explanation comes in, because my background is engineering. So, you know, when you look at the science and look at the knowledge that's available, and then you make an effort to actually try to be unbiased and look at the bigger picture as a neutral observer. When you look at the whole bigger picture as a neutral observer, then you understand how this religion is also developed over time, just like other religions have been developed over time. So once you're inside, when you're inside, everything makes sense to you because you are just echoing everything that whatever. If you have a doubt, you go to your imam, he's going to feed you a line, and since you're already biased to believe that from childhood, you're like, oh yeah, obviously it's, you know, makes sense. Quran has to be true. So you just basically has this cognitive dissonance, like, yeah, you know, even though your mind is telling you this story doesn't really make any sense, but then you get that some sort of basic explanation from your scripture or from your imam, and then since you already want to believe it, you'll go ahead and believe it, you know?
Well, to be fair, for a lot of religions, I would say, I guess indoctrination would probably be a very flawed way to do it because it's more of an enforced belief. But in terms of the truth of every religion, for example, when we analyze Islam, it's actually very, very philosophically sound, and especially when it comes to rationalism, contrary to what the mainstream secular world would say about Islam, to me, it's actually a very, very philosophically sound and a very rational religion when you truly
I
analyze
agree with
it.
you.
Mhm.
I agree with you on that. It is definitely philosophically sound. One God, believing in one, Tawheed and all that stuff. It makes sense philosophically, and I would say it is one of the more developed religions of the world. It has a much more developed fiqh with the theology going, lots of scholarship, really detailed explanations about a lot of things, rules, regulations, way of life. So I would say it is one of the more structured and more intense religions, where everything is answered for in as a overall. But still, once you look at the structure and you understand, it still is a man-made religion from start. Like, my question is not that the religion is not good. It has a lot of good teachings, just like other religion has good teaching, good philosophy, good morals, all that stuff. But end of the day, it's still it's not something came from the sky. It's not a divine religion. It's just, it is a man-made religion, just
but
like every other religion.
My question would be is, what is the crux as to why you left Islam? Because you say that it's obviously from a neutral perspective, it's just a man-made religion, but Muslims would say differently. But what is the crux of the matter?
The crux is, like, for me, it is like, what is the evidence? Like, I have not, like, the only evidence that we have is Quran, right? And based on the Quran, what is it about the Quran that is so special? I mean, when I was just reading it, just like from childhood, just reading, you know how it is. You just, you have to read it every day or this and that, and then you 5 times a day prayers and all that. So we are just a robotic way of reading it. But now that I'm reading more mature and actually reading the verses, it seems like the verses itself are not that special. It's all the scholarship that has been done on the verses later on that make the verses very special. You understand? It's like, I mean, think about that. If I gave a Harry Potter book, right, into an island, and there were 1,000 people there and 1,000 scholars, and I give them a Harry Potter book, come back to them after 200 years, and they'll have a whole religion based on Harry Potter. I mean, it'll be perfect. It'll have all the things answered. All the things will make sense. Why did Voldemort did this? Why did his hand go like that?
You're poisoning the well here. Like, but
I mean, in that's my perspective. I'm not saying like other people look at it that way, but I mean, for me, the way I look at it is, even though it is a sound religion as far as philosophy, but it's a developed philosophy over time.
Mm-hmm.
My only issues with it is the mythological stuff into it. You cannot be a Muslim unless you believe certain things, and for me, those things are not. They just cannot.
What are these
reconcile?
Things?
Like,
what are?
I mean, certain things like, okay, you're talking about, some stories from the Quran, like, Noah's boat and Khidr's episode and Moses and the splitting of the sea and, Abraham, Lut,
these are
Sodom and Gomorrah.
miracles, so it's not supposed to be scientific.
I know, but the thing is the miracle. See, if you take the miracle as an individual item, right, it doesn't make any sense. Now, the only way the miracle makes sense if you already presuppose the Quran is true. If you presuppose the Quran is true, then everything else in the Quran will make sense. But if you take that linchpin out of first saying, okay, let's not assume the Quran is true, nothing else makes sense in the Quran then. The only reason why I feel that lots of things in the Quran make sense is because right before it makes sense, you have the answer already. Quran is true. So since Quran is true, everything else will make sense automatically. It has to make sense. There is no other option. You understand? Miracles have to, the only answer, whenever something doesn't make sense, miracle. If something doesn't match up, God did it. You understand? It's logically incoherent completely. And that's how religions are some of the time. The only reason why they still work is because...
How you define what is logically coherent. Because there are a lot of things
logically
in this
coherent
world
is like,
that
why,
is not
why would you think? Let's say, for example.
Okay,
yeah,
for example, like
why would you think
consciousness. It's not the concept of our understanding of consciousness. It's simply for now it's illogical. But the fact is, we do have consciousness and we have evidence of our consciousness. So there are things in reality where we cannot fully comprehend logically. But that doesn't mean that it didn't happen or it's not real, right?
No, that I agree there.
Mm-hmm.
there's X amount of answers to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
My thing is, why are the only reason we're going with believing it is because we are assuming that it is true already. Like, I mean, for example, it's like God of the gap sort of thing. So yeah, we don't have the answers to a lot of things, but that doesn't mean we make up an answer and just accept it. You know, I don't. Okay, fine. We don't understand how certain things happen. Okay, so does that mean the other? It's not a dichotomy that either you don't understand or, you know, it is a miracle done by God for some reason.
So basically, what you're saying is that I don't believe in the Quran because it has illogical miracles. That's it. Is that your main argument?
I don't believe in the Quran itself because the Quran, I haven't seen anything from the Quran that is clearly that can show something supernatural wrote it. Like it is completely basic language and nothing. I mean, nothing. Tell me something that's in the Quran that a 7th century human would not know. Like it's completely limited. And now I'm not talking about the miracles of the Quran. Some people go in and those are being debunked already. So Zakir Naik situation and all that. I'm not going into that.
Allegedly debunked, basic. Allegedly
I mean, allegedly, of course, you know, they're, you know, embryology, yeah, sure, you know, certain issues with that. And then you talk, iron came from the sky and it says, I sent down iron. But then you look at the other verses that says, I sent down clothes, I sent down food. So it doesn't really make, you know, a lot of the answers are there. But I mean, if you really look into the answer, they are just apologetics, more of an apologetics answer than anything else. So the way I look at it is, it's the only reason you would believe certain things in the Quran is if you go into it thinking that it is true already. You wouldn't believe a stick fell on the floor and turned into a serpent and then ate the rest of the serpent. Why would you believe that? Unless you already have this in your brain that no, you have to believe it, that this actually happened, and then you'll make that concession like, oh yeah, it might have happened. But then see, the problem is you never make this concession for other religion. Why doesn't Rama or why didn't Hanuman go up in the sky and eat the sun? You don't make concession for them. You know, that's a miracle. Hanuman flew up to the sky and ate the sun. Okay, that's an amazing story, right? Not less amazing than the prophet flying on a winged horse and going to the 7th heaven. That's also an amazing story. But you make concession for your own stories, but you never make concessions for the other person's stories. The other person's stories are fantasy, but your stories are not fantasy for some reason. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't logically make sense. If you want to be intellectually consistent, be intellectually consistent with all the religions then. But you're making a special pleading fallacy for your own religion that for some reason your stories you'll believe more easily as opposed to the same story written in a different book, you'll not believe them. Just slightly change the name from Muhammad to Krishna, all of a sudden story doesn't make sense. But change the story, you know, the guy's name to Abdullah, and all of a sudden that story. I just did that yesterday. I told a story to my uncle. And it was from the Quran, right? I told him a story, and he didn't know that story. So I told him the story. He's like, man, these, and I just changed the names. I said, you know, Matthew or something did this and said this and all that. I was like, how ridiculous! That doesn't make any sense. I can't believe these Christians believe this like garbage and all that. Yeah, and I was like, wait a second. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. The guy's name was Heather, and he's the one who did this. He's like, all of a sudden, he's like, oh, of course, now it's a true story.
I guess so what you're saying is that it's not that we're dismissing every religion altogether, but it's simply that being an intellectual individual, you have to take into account your methodology and how you process information such as the Quran and its claims, right? So you have to be specific and detailed on the criterion that you use so that you would not arrive at biased answers and simply dumb conclusions because of things that you've already presupposed. So what you're saying is I'm just being a skeptic, and to me the evidence does not show what the Quran claims. That's what you're saying.
Right, but at the same time I'm looking at the bigger picture also. the religion Islam is coherent internally. Internally, within the Islamic paradigm, of course, everything will make sense because everything will be explained by everything else. But so do the other paradigms also make sense internally. If you look at the Jewish scripture, they have 1,000 more years of scriptural analysis than Islam is a new religion. It's like 1,400 year old. We had religions that lasted for 4,000 years, and they are no longer here, like the Romans and Mesopotamia and all those other religions before that. They had a long run for thousands of years, and nobody even talks about those religions anymore. Who talks about Zeus? Who talks about, and Aphrodite and all those places? But they were religions that lasted for thousands of years. You understand? Islam is a new religion. It's just came in 1,400 years ago. It's not even been there long. I mean, Hinduism is like 3,000, 4,000 years ago, and that's a polytheist religion. I mean, think about the paradox. Like, here is Islam saying all these polytheists are wrong, and by nature you cannot go for the polytheists. And here's polytheism that's been around for 4,000 years.
Yeah, but when you say you're looking at the bigger picture, I have to you have to elaborate your argument. So one is you say that because Islam is a young religion, therefore it's probably not real. Right? Or it's not true. Is that what you're saying?
That's not. No, that's not my main thing. These are like a preponderance of information. Like, not just like it is a newer religion. It is young. It's scrappy. It's like, oh, we are new guys on the block. We are the one. But I mean, most of the religions said the same thing. I mean, there are religions over there. They were like, we are the true religion, and nobody knows about them now. So it's. But see, I understand. For me, I was Muslim for 40 years. So read the Quran, read the Hadith, read the Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, read the tafsirs. Yeah. So when you go through them in detail, and when you compare that to other scriptures and how they explain their books, it's actually the same exercise done over here. It's just that since I was raised in that paradigm, for us, this looked more sensible and more credible, right? Imagine if I was born a Jew and I was going to the synagogue like 7 days a week for 10 hours a day, just like their young rabbis are. The Torah would make perfect sense to me. Everything in that book would make sense to me, because we have the Torah would have maybe like 2,500 years of scholarship done on that book. So every single thing that could be figured out is figured out, and just like Islam, it's all broken into different pieces. I mean, Islam also, Sunni, Shia, Salafi, this guy, that guy, Wahhabi, Deobandi. Why is there like the perfect religion from God? For some reason, everybody couldn't figure it out. Everybody got their own versions going on in their mind. This guy looked at that verse and he started killing people. The same guy looked at the same verse and started doing charity. So in the end of the day, a person who's good or bad will be a good or bad person. Doesn't matter what religion you give him. A Buddhist can be a violent Buddhist or a good Buddhist. Same way a Hindu could be a good Hindu or bad. So I don't think it's the religion that makes a person good or bad.
Okay.
Or it's a good like you have the ultimate good religion. That's why you're a good person. It's because you're a good person. That's why your religion is good.
Okay, but granted that, but let's say because you've been a Muslim for 40 years, so I wouldn't be able to correct you on that topic because you probably know a lot more than me about Islam. But in terms of, let's say, simply your belief in God himself, what would be your opinion on that?
I would have to say two different. As a general term, if I say generally, if somebody's not familiar, I would say, I'm an atheist. But if somebody wants to get a little bit more detail, of course, atheism is a positive position and you can't back it up. So I would say more of an agnostic atheist. But agnostic atheist in a sense, even in terms of speaking, I'm an agnostic atheist, but I live my life as a regular atheist because there's really, as far as how you live your life, there's no difference between an agnostic atheist and an atheist.
Cool. That's a very good answer. And so I guess that it's not that you don't you know that God isn't real, but because you're an agnostic atheist, you see no evidence as to why you should believe in God, and so you simply put a pin on that, and I'm just gonna live
No,
my life as if
yeah,
God doesn't exist.
no, the evidence that is provided so far is not convincing. That's all it is. And it's not really that convincing. The only reason why it gets very convincing is because you surround that evidence with all this other information that corresponds to it. So all of a
Okay.
sudden that
Okay.
evidence looks very credible.
Let's do
But
a
take that
mental
evidence
exercise
out
then.
and just look.
Let's do an
Sure.
exercise. For example, let's say it's just you reflecting without the world. You know, you're the only one on this planet, and you were born, and now you exist, and you're observing reality from your perspective. How would you, or what would be your criteria as to whether or not you would believe in that God is real or not?
I mean, it's whenever it comes to hypothetical, it's always a very shaky situation
Okay,
because
let's
it's,
just
some of the time
look at
it's
it as from the
the,
human
the
condition,
scenario
you
is
know, from
so
the most
unrealistic.
basic, yeah,
Like
from the
because
yeah, but from the most basic
so
human condition. Let's say you're not the only one
okay,
person on the
so
road.
on that platform, if you say on a basic human condition, I would say if I was born in a jungle, I had no idea
Mm-hmm.
what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my parents are from the Amazon tribe, and I have no
Mm-hmm.
idea. I would not know what to do. I would just follow whatever the my jungle parents taught me
Mm-hmm.
and just go by that until maybe if I at one point sit down, ponder, maybe I'd be like, certain things don't make sense what they're telling me. Why
Mm-hmm.
should I kill this goat to have fertile
But you're still gonna kill
crops
the goat
when, you know,
anyways because you need to.
I will still kill the goat, but I mean it's a hypothetical, so I don't know what
Yeah.
I'm gonna do in that situation. All I can
Okay.
talk about is the real experiences we
Yeah, but
have,
let's say
and we
you've
can base it
discovered,
on
for
that.
example, like logic that of you based on the human history of philosophy. You've discovered that the laws of non-contradiction, laws of identity, and a law of
Mhm.
excluded middle. You know, so you try to discover what's happening in reality, the metaphysics and all, being in the jungle. And so you've noticed that things that exist that are as an effect usually have a cause, and you've noticed that it's a unirrevocable law in the universe. So from this, you know, you observe that, oh, there's probably something greater than me, and something probably caused everything. So that's why
And
we have religion in 5,000 years before we were born. Humans have because of their thinking, you know, their cognitive ability, have been able to perceive or deduce that there could probably be someone that created everything. Don't you think? Be
I mean, absolutely, that would be no, but that would be a general conclusion of when you don't have an answer. See, the way I think about it is humans are very sensitive to not knowing the answer. They are very uncomfortable not knowing something. So when you don't know something, even a false answer is comforting, right? So if I don't know why this thunder happened, right? And I'll be like, you know what? The cloud came and the thunder happened. And then, you know, I saw, you know, again, the cloud came and the thunder happened. I don't know why it happened, but even an answer that just temporarily satisfies me, like something on top of that cloud must have thrown that thunder at me. That would
yeah.
satisfy a person.
Yeah, but let's say that
And that would,
you've improved technology, and you know you've developed the Hubble telescope of being from the jungle.
oh, you're talking about now? I thought you were talking still
Yeah,
about
but
the
still,
scenario in the
yeah.
jungle thing. No,
Yeah, but
if you say the laws of logic, let's say even if laws of logic, right? The three laws of logic. Even if you put the laws of logic to the religion, it doesn't make any sense.
why?
Now, see, the laws of logic contradict Islamic God.
How?
Allah is completely think about it. I mean, think about, does God know everything? He's omniscient, right? He knows everything.
Yeah,
right? Now, if he knows everything, that means he knows what's going to happen tomorrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is just like a logical exercise. He knows what's going to happen tomorrow. It's going to rain at 4 o'clock tomorrow, right? Now, if 3 o'clock you prayed and said, "Oh God, please don't make it rain today," and God like, "Oh man, Elmo really prayed hard today. Let me grant his wish," and then he stops the rain. Can he do that?
Well, I guess that because God is outside of time, he can.
No, I mean, as a yes
it.
or no answer. Like, let's say if you pray to God, say, "Hey, God, I don't want the rain today," and God listens to you, and He wants to fulfill you.
Yeah, He can do that.
He can. Okay, so now think about this. So He can stop the rain happening at 5 o'clock, right? Because you prayed at 3 o'clock, and now He listened to you. He stopped the rain happening at 5 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean the day before he didn't know that 5 o'clock the rain will stop?
That he was wrong?
He must have known, right? Because he knows the future. So if he knew already that 5 o'clock the rain will stop, at no point was there ever going to be rain. So he didn't know. He knew yesterday that at 5 o'clock there was going to be rain.
But he knew
so
that you were going to pray.
Your prayer didn't have any effect. No. But your prayer didn't have any effect on it because he knew yesterday that 5 o'clock there will be no rain. So he technically didn't listen to your prayer and made the rain stop because yesterday he already knew 5 o'clock the rain would not gonna happen.
Yeah,
but your prayer didn't have any effect.
But it did have an effect because because God did decide to stop the rain. So
he didn't. No, he didn't decide. He already knew. He decided a day before that 5 o'clock there's not gonna, because he knows it already. He didn't decide to change his will. Even if you say he did decide, that goes against the property of God, that God can never change his mind. You understand? If God changes his mind, that means the day before his plan got changed. The plan that he had yesterday got changed today. That's not possible Islamically. God cannot change his plan because Islamic theology says God knows everything, and if you read the Quran, it says the first thing he did, what he created was a pen, and he told the pen to write. And what did the pen write? The pen wrote the history of the world, all people, all animals, everybody's predetermination. The pen wrote in the book, and the book was sealed, and the ink was dry. This is from the Quran.
But do Muslims believe in a personal God, or is it the absolute divine
Muslims
simplicity?
believe in a personal God, but see, the thing is, the aspect of the properties they give to the God are contradictory. They are contradictory to each other because they say he's omniscient, he knows everything, but at the same time, you pray and he changes his mind. That doesn't make any sense. You say he's all powerful, but then can he make a square circle? No, he cannot go past logical impossibilities. You understand? Like he's all powerful, but certain things he can't do. He's everywhere.
Well, I can't imagine.
He's everywhere, but he's not in space and time.
I can imagine God
he's
making
everywhere,
a
but he's
circle.
not in. I mean, how can you do that? Tell me.
Well, if he changes the definition of what a square
those
is.
are the things. That's the thing. Yeah, because you're going against the definition of the word, so it's a logical impossibility. It's the law of non-contradiction. That's what I'm saying. So it becomes a law of non-contradiction. Something cannot be A and not A at the same time. So a circle cannot be a circle and not a circle at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
so it goes against the law of non-contradiction.
Yeah, but
see, a square cannot, like a circle, cannot be a triangle at the same time. Either it is a triangle or it's not a triangle. It can only have two options. It cannot be a triangle and not a triangle at the same time. So if God cannot do that, then it goes against the law of contradiction. You understand? If he can do it.
Well, I guess
that's beside
when we
the point.
talk about logic,
if you look,
logic is
if you look at
actually exists.
All the properties, but all the properties of God you assign to it, he gets mad when you do something wrong. What? So you're assigning human feelings to this God. He's not in time and space, but he gets mad when you do something wrong. Or he gets happy when you pray to him. That doesn't make any sense. The religion, it's just anthropomorphic. Whatever we gave it the property, that's what the God's property is. And then later on, scholars started and added more and more and more, build up the whole religion, and just the way the other religions are built up. When you ask question that, how does my prayer work? Well, God comes down on the third heaven and then listens to your prayer. What? And then he goes back to his throne. Like, none of that makes sense from a religion. The only way it makes sense, if you already presuppose that everything is true anyway, then everything makes sense. Of course, why can't there be a throne? Of course there's a throne. Why? Because the Quran says that there's a throne. So obviously there's a throne above the seventh heaven. Why 7? I don't know. God said it's 7, so it's 7. None of that stuff makes sense when you take it individually and look at it individually and look at it logically. But the only way it'll make sense.
I get that that would apply to if you already have a concept of a God, right? But like for example, the Islamic God. But what we were talking about was simply from the human condition and all we have. Accumulating all the knowledge that we have already and possibly from the future as well, you still have to when following the laws of logic, you still have to arrive at something that has caused everything, and I guess I would say it's a necessary being but without any
that's
presupposition.
the reason why I would say. Yeah, but that's why I would say, as an agnostic, you have to leave that position open. You're like, yep, everything is here, must have been something that made it. After that statement, must have been something, everything else is just made up by your religion. You understand? At that point, that's all you can come up logically. It is must have been something. That's it. He created the earth. 13 billion years later, he had the Big Bang. If you go by science, waited 7 billion years, and then the Earth formed, and then he waited another billion years, then the first cells showed up, and if you go in another billion years, and you have small animals, and Cambrian explosion, and 65 million years ago they had dinosaurs. He waited all the way.
So you're saying that deism is plausible.
1400 years ago. Yeah, but I'm saying, look at the story that the religion is feeding you. God waited all this time, 13.7 billion years, and just right now, 1400 years ago, he decided to let you know the truth. Think about why people believe that stuff. He waited for 13 billion years. 65 million years ago, dinosaurs. Humans have been on the earth for 200,000 years. 200,000. 100,000 years, they had a complete human body. Like, they weren't like Neanderthal. They weren't like, other hominids. They were real human bodies with the same size brains as we do. For the past 100,000 years, you have history going back. Right? You can look at different places where you have remnants of humans. So let's not even go 100 years south. Let's go 20,000 years ago. 20,000 years ago, you actually find history of, in Australia, in the cave paintings and things like that. You have evidence of human civilization. And nothing happened 20,000 years ago. God is waiting. All the way 1,400 years ago, all of a sudden he decided, all right, now I'm going to give you guys the real religion in the middle of the Middle East, in a cave, to this one guy who's sitting by himself for 3 days, didn't eat anything in a cave, and he saw something. And now all of a sudden he comes down and like, okay, I saw this, and everybody got to believe it. You understand, the only person is the first person listener to that story is Muhammad. Everybody else is a hearsay. Everybody else is a second person listener. The only person who listened to it, first person account of that, is Muhammad. That's it. And who is telling you that this is what happened? Muhammad himself. No correlation, nobody saw anything other than whatever stories you are thinking. And that's what I'm just saying. It doesn't make any sense if you look at it logically and sensibly. Just for a minute, take out the blinders for the religious blinder. Take the blinders off for the religion and look at it with a clear mind. Is it is it more plausible that a guy sitting in a cave for 3 days in the Middle Eastern, like in the desert heat, didn't eat, didn't sleep too well, he's been meditating, and after 3 days he saw something, could have been a hallucination? Is that more plausible? Or some divine entity from seventh heaven reached down with an angel after 13.7 billion years of waiting to give him the correct message at that time? Like, which is more plausible? You understand? I mean, the only reason why you would think the second one is more plausible, because you have to believe the Quran anyway. So if you don't believe the Quran, that story doesn't make any sense. And it doesn't make sense to billions of people, like Christians all around the world. They don't believe that story. Why? They don't need to. You understand? They look at the story and they see exactly what the story is. It's just a story. But Muslims look at the story, of course, based on the blinders of Islam. They have to believe that story as true. So, I mean, I'm not disparaging the religion and religious people in that sense. They do good work. There's good things in religion, but it's just not a divine thing. It's just a man-made system of organizing people. Religion is basically, once you have a lot of people living together, when they were living in caves and living in groups, smaller groups, they had a very small group. So it was easy to control the people within the tribe, within the like a small group of people. But as you get irrigation and crops and things like that, people start moving together and making towns and villages and all that. Now you have way too many people living together. So you have to build a system to control them. Now you cannot control them all the time by looking at them and making sure they're doing the right thing. So you have to implant a big daddy in their brain that is always looking at them. So at that's where that concept that somebody is from up on the sky is looking at you all the time, and he will judge you if you do something bad. Even if nobody's looking at you, you need to do that. It's a system of control to organize and make the society work. And it works perfectly. Look, everywhere religion works. It's just that religion is completely based on the location where you at. If you are in China, guess what? Your religion will be based on the river, the clouds, the animals in the field. It will be based on that. Yin and yang and all that stuff. You're in South America, you're in Australia, your religion is based on the serpent in the sky that created all the man and all that stuff, because that's what they saw there. You see, isn't it amazing how each religion is completely customized to where it is from? What is Quran all about? Dates, palms, tents, camels. You understand? Nothing outside of camels and horses and the things that the local people can see is in that book. Now look at the same religion in Judaism. When they were in Mesopotamia and they were moved to Jerusalem, they have olive trees, all of that stuff. So all their religion is based on whatever they had locally available there. Each religion is customized to the location and the local people and the customs that they have. Interesting is, the Vikings, right? Their hell was a frozen tundra. See, our hell is burning hellfire, fire and all that, right? Because that's what we see, right, as a hell. But their hell was a frozen wasteland. They didn't have hell saying like fire and everything, because they lived in all the way north. So for them, the most extreme thing would be like left out in the cold. So for their concept of hell was like a frozen wasteland. So that's what I'm saying. Once you understand how religions work and how they established over a period of time, and how you study each and every religion, how the Egyptian religion works exactly the way it's supposed to, the sun god chasing the moon god, and how it developed over time, and how that god now created the different, his body was cut into pieces. If you study the ancient Egyptian religion, you'll understand how it developed over time and how you get all the different gods from there. Same thing with Roman and all that. And now you have Islam. Now the interesting thing about Islam is Islam just basically built up on Judaism and Christianity, just the next version. They took the stories that they already had available in there and just basically built on top of that. But the key piece of resistance, like they say, is they put a stamp on it, like, we got the last one, we got the last prophet, so nobody can mess with us now because we got the last prophet. That's a stroke of genius,
I guess that when you
I'm just saying.
yeah.
That's just the way I look at it. I'm sure everybody has their own way of looking at it. I just look at it. I really understand the religions are important for a lot of people, but some people end up actually understanding that it is just a man-made system and it works, it's useful for what it is, but it's not the divine part of it. The mythology is not real. Nobody was on a Noah's Ark with all these animals that was floating on like a flood and all that stuff. That story has been taken from Mesopotamia. You can research it. Where did the Noah story come from? And you'll see that they even copied it for somebody else. So it's like a story that's been copied from religion to religion. As the religion developed in a different area, their gods were changed with the gods that they believed in. So in Mesopotamia, the god were Ahura Mazda. And when it came to Jews, they changed the god to Yahweh. And when that story came to Christian, that god become Jesus, and then when that story comes to Islam, that god becomes Allah. It's all the same story, it's just modified to the custom and location where that story is developed more and more into that particular religion.
I guess when we put a scrutiny on all religions, there are a lot of discrepancies, problems, and fallacies and whatnot.
Because they're all man-made. It's not discrepancy. It's just that's how they are made. And of course, each religion does its best to tie all the loose ends and all that, but of course they have a lot of legacy stuff that's left over from the past. Like even in Islam right now, look at the stuff that is legacy from before. Like think about what people having long beards and shaving their mustache. Why? Because at that time it was something. If you go to Pakistan, you know what they do? They walk around with their pants high above the ankle, right? Because so you ask them why. Oh, it's because of a hadith. But why was that hadith? Because if you look at the hadith, it was because during the time of the Prophet, having longer clothes on the past your ankle was a sign of wealth. So people who were wealthy would have clothes that were all the way to their feet, and would drag on the floor to show how rich they were, that they could afford all the long clothes. But then when Prophet saw that people are showing off their long clothes, there was a hadith saying whoever has their cloth past their ankle, they could see their ankles in hellfire. So because of that hadith, imagine even right now, 2020, people are walking around with pants above their ankles. You understand? These are legacy things that are left over into religion. They were good for that time, but they don't match when it comes to newer, different times. It's just a system. Once you understand the bigger picture, it's like a mind-opening situation. You see everything as it is instead of as people have, as the religion has told you how it is. You see everything for what it is.
Yeah, but again, going back to deism, though, to you, why don't you believe that positively that there could be a deity that created the universe, other than what the religions?
No, I do believe there could be somebody. I do believe there must be something that created the universe. Okay. I have no idea what it is. Okay. I have no idea. Okay, no, and anybody who tells you they have an idea is lying, because nobody has an idea. It's just ideas made by yourself. Like, okay, well, my God does this. My God looks like this. My God, everybody has their own ideas. But tell me anybody who's actually has a real idea what God is like. Nobody knows. Even Quran itself says, I forgot the ayah, he is not like anything that you know. So even the Quran says he's unlike anything you know. So nobody can know what he is. So it's just whatever you make him up to be. God word is just a word. And then everybody uses that word to define whatever they have their concept of. But what made the earth? What made the universe? What made the Big Bang? Is it a multi-universe? Is it a cyclical universe? I don't know. And I'm okay with that. It's uncomfortable not knowing certain things, but it's better than to make up an answer and just believe in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess then, in terms of you being an unbeliever, it's mostly against man-made religions, so I guess you're, as an agnostic, you're still considering the possibility that an intelligent creator might have made everything, like simulation theory, aliens,
or
whatnot.
simulation. See, the thing with simulation theory is it literally has no effect on our life. Let's say, imagine if you were in a simulation right now, right, Emilio? If you were in a Elmo. So I'm sorry, I said Emilio because one of my good friends is Emilio. Elmo. If we were in a simulation right now, would that make any difference to you and me right now?
Well,
would you even know it?
Well, if I 100%,
no, would you know it?
Well, I wouldn't. But if I 100% knew that
exactly.
was in a...
So but for all intents and purposes, the way we are right now, I accept you are in reality, you accept I'm in reality, and that's how much we know about reality, and that's how much we know. Everything else is just philosophical mumbo jumbo. You can come up with all this, we could be a brain in a vat, and we could be in a simulation. All that stuff is great for philosophical talk. But in reality, does it make any difference in your life and my life right now? We don't know if we are in a simulation or not, so we will live our life as if we are not, and you will live your life as if you're not. So I mean, this whole thing that philosophy, we could be in a simulation, so what? We can't tell, so it doesn't have any effect on our life whatsoever. So you're still in the same place, square one. Okay, fine, you're in a simulation, so what? Now what? Can you do anything about it? No. So boom.
Well, I guess then, in terms of, for example, what is of use to me is that if your argument is that if we are, whether or not we are in a simulation, it's irrelevant. I could say the same thing though for if I were to choose to be an atheist or a theist. Like, I would look at which lifestyle would suit me more and would be better, so I guess then that a lot of people would more or less used to actually believe in a god or choose a religion because of its benefits as well.
So Elmo, I'll give you a different scenario. How about this? I'll give you a completely different outlook into it, and think about this. Okay, maybe there is a creator, and he created this world, and he created all of us, and his purpose of giving us all these different religions and all these theologies and all that was to really check who is the one who's actually going to look at these religions and deny them for what they are. And the truth seeker will be the one person who will not accept any other religion, because, as let's say, even if you want to go with the Quran says, think and observe, right? Look at your reality and observe, and think about the decisions you're making. So maybe the creator gave us all of these religions, and his real test wasn't the whole, I'm gonna judge you in the final, and this world is a test for you for doing. No, his real test was, let me see which of my creation is actually capable of thinking and actually have the guts to reject false claim if the evidence doesn't make sense. Are they gonna blindly believe, or they're gonna have the guts to be like, you know what, these religions don't make sense, I'm not going to believe them, I'm going to keep myself open, and if God decides he wants to put me on the right path or give me the right information, I'm sure he knows how to put me in the right position or right information. Until then, maybe his real purpose of testing us is test who is the person who's actually going to question. The person who questions is the winner. The person who doesn't question anything, it just accepts the religion, is
Well, that's a nice story, and I've heard of it a lot of times. But I guess to me though,
it's as good.
If I were to judge that, I would say like a lot of people could also copy from those who question, so they might not deserve to be given the worthiness of being a skeptic, because they simply copy the other skeptics, even though they're probably going to believe anyway. So but in some sense, but what I do think though is if there were a God and if there were a test, it would be a test that wouldn't be rational. It would more on I guess go on the spiritual route. And
if it is, yeah, so if it was a test, then obviously then Islam goes out of the picture, because that test is not rational at all. Because if you go with the Islamic theology, look at the structure of the test. He created you, and then he tried to give this test to the mountains, and the mountains all of a sudden said they don't want the test. So humans were stupid enough to say, we want the test. And then he's like, okay, fine, I'm going to give you the test, but I'm going to. Yeah, that's Islam. That's the Islamic theology of why we are tested.
What hadith? Is it the hadith or in the Quran?
No, it's a Quranic narrative. I mean, I'm paraphrasing it, making it short, but I mean, if you go through you can search it online. So Islamic idea of the test is that God created everything, and he was going to give this test to the mountains, and the mountains said, no, we will crumble if you give this test to us. And then humans were the only stupid enough to say, okay, we will take the test. Okay, so then God said, all right, fine, I'm going to give you the test, but I'm going to wipe your memories, so you wouldn't know that I asked you this question. And then he sends you to earth. And now we are guilty because we said yes to the test, so we have to be tested. But we don't remember the test. We don't remember that we said yes to that. I mean, check it out. Ask an imam. Say, why? What is the background of how did the God give the test to Adam or humans?
Okay.
Why are we tested?
Is it a hadith, what was the story behind in the Quran?
It's in the Quran, and then it's backed up by certain hadiths. Also, of course, as you know, Islam is Quran and hadith. And then I'm not talking about just like weak hadith. I'm talking about Sahih Muslim and Sahih Bukhari.
Yeah.
So they are backed up. I mean, you can check with a scholar, and it'll be, I mean, I'm not going to go into detail and explain the whole story, but it's a very interesting story that how humans said we will be tested, and then he's like, all right, I'm going to wipe your brain, wipe your memory out. It's like, imagine you wake up tomorrow and your friend comes home, like, give me $100. It's like, what do you mean $100? Oh, you owe me $100. How? Like, remember yesterday when you were sleeping, I woke you in the middle of the night and you said yes. You don't remember it because I wiped your brain, wiped your memory. Now you owe me $100. And you're like, what? You understand how ridiculous that sounds if you actually look at it in a real sense? But no, of course, God did it, so it makes sense,
Yeah. One last question.
I don't know. It just doesn't any of these stories. They are more comical to me now. I can't believe for such a long time I just fell for all of these stories because we were just trained to fall for these stories as like, well, of course this must have happened. Of course,
Yeah, one last question, Bey Yaqeen,
go ahead.
Because we're almost an hour now. It's been an awesome, fun, really awesome, interesting conversation with you. My question would be, there are a lot of people who are in doubt of the religion, but a lot of them have been in places where leaving their own religion or even questioning would lead to a lot of serious consequences. What advice would you give to them if they were to ask you this question?
I would say to them, safety first. And I have a lot of people that contact me on Facebook and YouTube, like, oh, we are in Pakistan and I want to tell my family. And my advice is always, hey, safety first. Certain places are just not conducive right now to just openly claim that you don't believe. Think logically. Don't get emotional about there's a lot of people, but it's a very tough situation because if they didn't have this hudud laws in a lot of the countries, imagine the amount of people that would just apostatize. There's people in Pakistan that are apostates, but they cannot say anything because the minute they say it, 295C, there's a law there, they could be arrested and killed. I mean, forget about punishment or nothing. They could be killed for saying that they're leaving the religion. It's ridiculous, and that's still going on in Saudi Arabia and some 13 other countries that have apostasy laws. Forget about blasphemy laws. There's so many other countries that have blasphemy laws. I mean, this is 2020 and we still have blasphemy laws. I mean, I can't imagine what is going on. Like, how blasphemy. You said something against our imaginary God, so now you deserve to die. Like, that's what blasphemy is. You said something against our prophet, now you must die. That doesn't make any sense to me in today's time and day and age. But we still have those laws in certain countries, and the way it looks, it's not going away very soon. Eventually it will, as just like Christianity went through a reformation. I mean, kicking and screaming, they had to go through a reformation, and now they went through a reformation, and now it's not what it used to be, Christianity. You can stand in the middle of the road and say Jesus, whatever, and nobody will say anything to you, because it's already gone through that process.
Safety
Islam
first,
has
I guess.
still not gone through that. Yeah, so I would recommend to them, do not speak up. Try to go on Facebook, try to go on the internet, try to find a community where you can use a username password which is not the same as yours, and try to educate yourself about the religion, and be sensible, be careful. And if in other places, if you can come out openly, come out openly. And in the past 4 years, Elmo, you wouldn't believe, in the past 4 to 5 years, what I've seen, the amount of people that have become ex-Muslim, it's mind-boggling. I mean, even in my close circle, there are certain people I'm like, oh, just talking, and all of a sudden it's like a conversation goes in this. It's like, wait a second, you also don't? It's like, yeah, I don't believe it either. And then I find so many people in my whole circle that they are ex-Muslim, but they just cannot come out because of stigma associated with leaving the religion. Because, I mean, it's very hard, because not only, think about, why am I not showing my face right now? I live in New York and I am not showing my face. The reason I'm not showing my face is because according to Islam, a Muslim woman cannot be married to a Muslim non-Muslim guy. Okay, that's a law, Islamic law. A Muslim woman cannot be married to a non-Muslim guy. So if a Muslim woman's husband apostatizes and says he's not Muslim anymore, his marriage automatically is null and void at that point when he apostatizes. I have a wife, I have 3 kids. You understand? It's real. These things affect our lives in a real manner. So that's the reason why I'm speaking out. That's the reason I'm doing whatever I can on Facebook and YouTube, and trying to normalize this dissent, that at one point eventually it will become a accepted thing, that it's okay. You know what? If you don't believe the religion, you just don't believe it. What can you do?
Yeah. Hopefully someday. Well.
Yep.
But you can actually help with that by also supporting like other religions like Buddhism or Christianity, and let them invade these Muslim
I get
countries.
asked that question sometimes. I get asked that question, that why don't you criticize Christianity? Why don't you criticize other religion? The only reason is I'm not very well educated about Christianity. I lived all my life as a Muslim, so I have more knowledge about Islam than any other religion. So when I'm of course, Christianity, if you come to talk about that, I can talk about basic things, the Trinity and this and that, but that wouldn't be my expertise. That wouldn't be where I would be very, very well versed. So I don't want to say something that I don't know, but at least with Islam, I know a little bit, So at least I can be comfortable talking about Islam, because I can literally say, yes, I know, because I was a Muslim. But with Christianity, if I criticize them, they're like, well, what do you know? You were never a Christian anyway,
Yeah. So that's the end of it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This is your host, Elmo Ador Jr. And thank you for listening in. And please subscribe. Please follow us on Facebook. Please follow this. Please. Thanks.
It takes a lot of ingredients to fix or build a car, like cooking, but without the frozen dinner easy way out. eBay Motors has 122 million parts. It's always the right fitment, so you can follow any recipe to a T. Whether it's a vintage Italian coupe that's classic like Grandma's meatballs, or a German luxury car that's as complicated as Oma's rouladen, to cook up something great in the garage, use the eBay Motors app or visit ebaymotors.com. Let's ride.
Meet CocoVia Memory Plus with some of the most researched plant-based nutrients harnessing the natural compounds within the cocoa bean. To improve memory and brain function in just 8 to 12 weeks, try CocoVia Memory Plus capsules. Order today at cocovia.com. That's COCOAVIA.com and use coupon code CCV20 to get 20% off your order. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease.